They built an entire story around your downfall. Now they're trapped in the fiction they wrote, choking on every lie they used to bury your truth. They should have stayed quiet. They should have minded their small, petty lives. But no, they chose to make your name their obsession. They linked up behind your back. They whispered, they plotted, they laughed. They clowned your pain, mocked your effort, bet on your collapse like it was entertainment. But now, every single one of them is folding under the same weight they tried to put on your chest. You didn't ruin them. They ruined themselves, trying to ruin you. That's what happens when you go to war with someone the universe chose to protect. Before we go any further, like this video, subscribe, and drop 77 in the comments if you're done playing small and ready to stand in your truth. The moment you engage with this, it signals to the algorithm that another chosen one needs this message. This isn't just a video, this is a transmission, a frequency, a warning shot through the fog of spiritual warfare. So don't just feel it, spread it. Let's get into it. You got so many people pressed, and let's not pretend you don't see it. It's in their fake smiles, their silence, the shade wrapped in politeness, the sudden support that feels more like surveillance. They're watching your every move, like it's their full-time job, because the glow-up they tried to stop is now glaring in their eyes, and it's burning. You weren't supposed to make it. They made that very clear. They wanted your breakdown to be the final chapter, but all they did was set the scene for your rise. And here's the part that stings for them the most. You never retaliated. You didn't throw dirt. You didn't plot. You didn't fight fire with fire. You let the energy take care of itself. And now, the same fire they danced around is the one they're choking in. They lit the match. You lit the path. That's the difference. And yet, you still doubted yourself. You, the one carrying all this power, the one the universe covered when no one else would. You sat in the dark and wondered if maybe they were right. You questioned your gift. You shrank your spirit. You dimmed your light to make cowards comfortable. Don't lie, you did. You told yourself it was humility, but it was fear. You didn't want to outshine, but they were already throwing shade. You thought silence was peacekeeping, but it was just permission for them to keep waging war. How dare you doubt what the universe handcrafted? How dare you forget the nights you didn't break, the mornings you got up bleeding but still moved? You think that kind of resilience is normal? You think that kind of glow is random? You were marked, chosen, covered. The enemies knew that before you did. That's why they came so hard. That's why they tried to twist the story before you even learned your own power. Because they saw it in you before you saw it in yourself. And it terrified them. That's the thing about being chosen. It doesn't just elevate you. It haunts them. Your name, your presence, your peace, it's a threat. You don't even have to speak, and they flinch. You walk into a room, and the air shifts. You don't demand attention, you pull it naturally. And instead of being inspired, they chose envy. Instead of learning from your light, they tried to sabotage it. And now they're paying. Not because you cursed them, but because you walked in alignment, and alignment never misses. So here's the truth, raw and unfiltered. Every single person who tried to ruin you is now fighting battles they crafted for you. And you're still rising, still glowing, still chosen. Stop doubting your crown just because the climb was painful. This wasn't supposed to be easy. It was supposed to make you undeniable. And now that you're stepping into your truth, don't look back. Don't water dead soil. Don't feed hands that threw stones. Let the results do the talking. Let their karma do the screaming. and let your light, the same one they feared, burn brighter than ever. Drop a comment below with the number 77 if you're ready to embrace your isolation as the foundation of your transformation. Because what looked like loneliness was actually protection, and what felt like abandonment was divine positioning. Every delay, every detour, every betrayal, it was sculpting the version of you they never saw coming. And now let's dive into it step by step. And believe me, if you're truly chosen, if you've ever felt that silent pressure from eyes that couldn't stop watching you, you're going to feel the pull to stay until the very last word. This isn't just confirmation, it's confrontation. You got people pressed, and they're paying for every intention they sent your way. Let's get started. Number 1. They threw dirt. Now they're burying themselves in it. The grave they dug for you became their daily view, and now it's sinking them in silence. Let that hit. Let it marinate, because the truth is, they never saw you surviving the storm. They just didn't expect the flood to come for them instead. They threw dirt like it was their divine assignment, lied on your name with pride, projected their brokenness onto you, hoping if they painted you dark enough, no one would notice the shadows swallowing them whole. They built a false reality around your downfall. One group chat, one whisper, one smear campaign at a time. And now, that fantasy is collapsing, one truth at a time. The same dirt they tossed with ease has become the very ground cracking beneath their feet. Every stone they hurled ricocheted, and now it's crashing into their own glass illusions. And you sat in that dirt. You cried in that dirt. You built in that dirt. While they threw it, you were using it as foundation. Don't forget that. Because while they mocked, while they laughed, while they swore, you'd never get back up. You were planting roots. And now, you're rising like something they can't even explain. And still, some of you dare to question your own power. Let's be real, some of you still sit around wondering, why did they hate me so much when I was just trying to love them? You keep asking yourself what you did wrong. But hear this loud, you didn't trigger their hate. You triggered their insecurity. You didn't do anything to them. You just existed in a way that made them uncomfortable. You didn't shrink. You didn't conform. You didn't collapse under their control. And for people who rely on power plays and popularity to define their worth, your rawness was threatening. They were never mad at what you did. They were mad at what you are, chosen, covered, resilient. While they needed a crowd to validate them, you stood alone and still commanded energy. While they needed applause to feel worthy, you had the universe applauding you in silence. And that silence, it was louder than their noise, and they felt it. That's why they attacked, because light exposes everything hiding in the dark. And now the exposure is turning on them. You ever seen someone trying to fake peace while unraveling behind the scenes? That's them now. They smile through forced selfies and inspirational captions, but the energy is hollow. The mask is slipping. The energy they used to destroy you has multiplied and come home. And guess what? You didn't have to lift a single finger, because chosen ones don't clap back. They level up. You didn't drag their names. You didn't match their chaos. And that's what's burning them the most. Your silence is louder than their attacks ever were. And yet, I need to say this, some of you still don't get it. You still sit with your shoulders hunched, doubting the fire in your bones. Still thinking maybe they were right, maybe you were the problem, maybe you shouldn't stand up and claim your power. How dare you? How dare you carry light that breaks generational curses and still wonder if you're worthy? How dare you walk through hell alone and still question if the universe forgot you? The universe never left you. It was fighting battles you couldn't see. You think it was coincidence that the same people who tried to ruin you ended up unraveling on their own? You think it's luck that every door slammed in your face led to something greater? No, chosen one. That's alignment. You're not here by mistake. You were hidden, protected, isolated, not punished. While they danced in attention, you were being prepared. You were going through what they couldn't survive, and they knew it. Let's take it deeper. You think Beyoncé became who she is by being understood in every room. You think Nipsey Hussle didn't feel the pressure of people plotting and preying on his downfall while he built legacy. You think Kobe Bryant got up at 4 a.m. every day just to prove a point? No, they knew they were chosen. And chosen ones don't wait for permission to rise. They know they're different, and they own it. That same DNA runs in you. And every person who couldn't handle your presence tried to erase you instead. But your legacy wasn't theirs to write, and your name is echoing louder now than ever. They thought their dirt would bury you. Instead, it fed your roots. They thought the silence would break you. Instead, it built your clarity. They thought they'd walk away laughing while you crumbled. Instead, you turned their betrayal into fuel. That's the difference between them and you. They collapse under confrontation. You transformed in isolation. And now they're the ones being haunted. Haunted by every word they spoke. Haunted by your elevation. Haunted by the reality that they bet against someone the universe protects. They didn't lose access to you. They lost access to grace. Because your forgiveness gave them time. Your patience gave them peace. And when they abused that, they cursed themselves. They weren't just throwing dirt on your name. They were writing their own karma in real time. So sit with this truth. Every person who tried to ruin you is now facing what they thought you'd never survive. They're trapped in cycles of confusion, pretending not to notice that nothing is working, no matter how loud they shout or how far they run. You don't need to check in. You don't need to wonder. The universe doesn't forget. Energy doesn't expire. And justice, real justice, doesn't need an audience. It shows up quietly, precisely, without warning. And if you ever catch yourself slipping back into doubt, ask yourself this. If you weren't powerful, why did they spend so much energy trying to dim you? If you weren't chosen, why did the universe keep covering you when everyone else walked away? You were never buried, chosen one. You were being planted, and now that you're growing, they're choking on the very dirt they used to write your obituary. So rise, loudly, unapologetically, and never, never doubt again. They threw dirt. Now they're burying themselves in it. Number 2, you're not too much. They're just too weak to handle you. You're not too much. They're just too weak to handle the intensity of someone who finally stopped pretending to be small. Let's get one thing clear right now. You are not the problem. You never were. You're not too loud, not too intense, not too emotional, not too passionate. That label they slapped on you. Too much. That was never about you. That was about them, about their limitations, their small thinking, their discomfort around someone who isn't afraid to be real, raw, and unfiltered. They couldn't handle you, not because there was something wrong with you, but because your energy hit them in places they weren't ready to deal with. You challenged their false confidence just by existing. Your truth exposed their performance. Your strength made their control tactics irrelevant. And when people feel that kind of discomfort, they do what all cowards do. They try to reduce what they can't understand. And here's the part that should make your blood boil. You believed them. You actually started shrinking yourself to be less intimidating. You played it safe in conversations so you wouldn't sound too opinionated. You silenced your ideas to avoid being called too much. You hid your leadership, your edge, your originality, just so people with half your vision wouldn't feel left behind. Why? Why did you do that? You thought maybe it was kindness, maybe you were being respectful, but let's be honest, it was fear. Fear that if you showed up in full force, people would leave. And guess what? They left anyway. Or worse, they stuck around just to drain you, study you, and turn others against you. So let's call it what it is. You weren't too much. They were too underdeveloped to receive anything real. You're the type who can walk into a room and shift the whole mood without saying a word. Not because you're trying to, but because energy doesn't lie. And when someone who spent their whole life pretending meets someone who just is, it shakes them. You shook them. Your presence disrupted their control. Your honesty collapsed their fragile stories. Your intensity revealed their weakness, and they hated you for it. You think you were the only one who ever felt out of place? Who walked into jobs, relationships, friend groups and thought, why can't I just fit in? That wasn't rejection, that was confirmation. You weren't made to fit into broken systems. You weren't designed to blend into backgrounds. Your very being is a contradiction to what most people have settled for, and that's exactly why they tried to dim it. But here's the irony. The same people who couldn't handle you will later imitate you. They'll call you too much to your face and copy you behind your back. They'll mock your ideas in the group chat, then repackage them and post them like they're original. They'll downplay your intensity and then try to profit off your essence. They couldn't handle the real you, but they had no issue trying to wear your skin. And still, after all that, you dare to doubt yourself? Still, how many breakdowns did you turn into breakthroughs? How many moments of silence did you survive when no one checked in? How many times did you have to choose your peace over people who swore they'd support you, then disappeared the moment you stopped making yourself useful? Stop doubting your impact. It wasn't in their head. They felt it. You've always had it. That internal force, that focus, that clarity. They saw it before you did. That's why they came for you. That's why they whispered. Why they turned people against you. Why they pretended you were dangerous when the only real danger was what you made them feel about themselves. They called it arrogance. It was confidence. They called it instability. It was growth. They called it attitude. It was boundaries. You were evolving. They were projecting. You want to know how powerful you are? Look at the silence in the room when you speak. Look at the shift in energy when you finally walk away. Look at how the people who called you too much can't seem to stop watching, copying, reacting. That's not coincidence, it's confirmation. So let me be blunt. Stop apologizing for being real in a world built on pretend. You weren't sent here to be likable. You were sent here to be undeniable. And if people feel uncomfortable around that, good. Let them feel it. That discomfort is theirs to deal with, not yours to carry. You're not too much. You're the standard they never thought they'd meet. And now they're pressed because you finally stopped shrinking. Number 3. You moved in silence. Now your results are loud. They talked the loudest when you were silent. Now your results are screaming, and they're choking on the echo. There's a special kind of vengeance in not saying a word, in letting your results do all the speaking. You moved in silence, not because you were weak, not because you had no comeback, but because you understood something they didn't. Real power doesn't need to announce itself. And now look at you. While they were busy running their mouths, you were running laps around every version of yourself they swore you'd never become. They thought silence meant submission. They assumed your distance meant defeat. But really, you were strategizing. You were becoming something they weren't even equipped to imagine. You weren't inactive. You were intentional. You weren't losing. You were locking in. You see, people like them don't understand what it means to build from the inside out. They only know performance, surface, applause, appearances. Their idea of success is rooted in being seen. Yours was rooted in being solid. While they were obsessed with looking like something, you became it. Quietly, relentlessly, without needing their validation. You were planting roots when they were planting rumors. And now the difference is clear. Their lies have withered. Your foundation, it's growing into something they can't touch. Let's call it what it is. They wanted to distract you. They wanted you so busy defending yourself, explaining yourself, reacting to every jab, that you'd never have time to rise. That's the trap. Because the moment you step into the mud with them, you slow down. And they knew they couldn't outrun you at full speed. So they threw shade, poked, provoked, baited you to swing back, just to keep you from building. But you didn't bite, and that's what destroyed them. Because now they have to watch what they tried to ruin become undeniable. They have to sit with the reality that their gossip didn't stop your growth. Their shade didn't dim your shine. In fact, every lie, every rumor, every smear campaign only made your silence louder and your comeback even more brutal. And the most painful part for them, you never mentioned their name. You never gave them the satisfaction of attention. You just let your success speak volumes. And now it's screaming. You want to know what real elevation looks like? It's when the people who disrespected you are too embarrassed to even make eye contact anymore. It's when the same ones who called you delusional now mimic your every move. It's when your wins show up in rooms they never thought you'd walk into. And here you are, no announcement, no permission, no apologies, just results. And they can't take it. You didn't have to prove anything. Your growth proved them wrong, all by itself. And that's the part they'll never recover from. Not because you were aggressive, but because you were accurate. Not because you attacked, but because you advanced. You were patient, focused, calculated. You turned your pain into a blueprint and your isolation into momentum. And still, I know how your mind works. You're sitting there thinking, but no one acknowledged it. No one said sorry. No one admitted they were wrong. Of course they didn't. Cowards don't confess. They hide. They'll pretend they never doubted you. Some of them will even try to circle back like they were always in your corner. But you know better now. You felt the silence. You noticed who looked away. You remember who clapped when it was convenient, and who disappeared when things got real. Don't let them rewrite the story now that you're rising. And don't fool yourself into thinking your silence was weakness. Your silence was discipline. Your silence was self-respect. You knew your time was coming, and you didn't waste a second trying to convince people who already decided to misunderstand you. You were too busy building, too busy healing, too busy creating a life so powerful it now speaks in every room your name couldn't enter before. Because that's the thing about elevation. It doesn't ask for permission. Now people are watching you with their mouths closed and their eyes wide, watching your growth like it's a plot twist they never saw coming. And you you just keep rising because you were never trying to prove them wrong. You are proving yourself right. That's the real victory. So here's what you don't do. Don't go back to explain. Don't repost the receipts. Don't clarify what they distorted. Let the silence finish the sentence. Let the results keep speaking. Let the people who thought they buried you realize they were just stepping on concrete. And now that concrete is cracking from the pressure of what you've become. You moved in silence, and now your results are loud. Louder than the lies. Louder than the hate. Louder than their apologies they're too ashamed to give. Let them hear it. Number 4. They're addicted to watching what they pretend not to see. They muted your page, but check it daily. That's obsession in disguise. Let's talk about the watchers, the silent eyes, the ones who act like you don't exist, but never miss a post, never miss a move, never miss a moment. They'll scroll past your wins with stone-cold faces, pretend they didn't see your breakthrough. But the truth, they've got you on surveillance, they've got you on repeat. They're watching harder than your biggest supporters, just without the courage to show their face. You know exactly who I'm talking about. The ones who said you'd never make it. The ones who laughed when you were still building. Who swore you were all talk, no action. Now look at them, lurking in silence like fans with bruised egos. They can't stand to see you win, but they can't look away either. They're addicted to your glow, and it's killing them inside. They watch your stories with fake accounts. They scroll your content at 2 a.m. They click, they zoom, they analyze every detail, all while pretending they don't see you. But the views don't lie. The energy doesn't lie. The universe sees what they won't admit. They're obsessed, and they're angry, not because you hurt them, not because you did anything wrong. They're angry because you kept rising without their approval. You're everything they tried to block. Now they have to sit back and watch it unfold in real time. They pretended you were irrelevant, told others you were doing too much, trying too hard, not going anywhere. Now they're studying your every move like you're a blueprint. Funny how that works. You became the reference while they were still trying to erase your name. And yet, here's where some of you still miss the point. You still wonder why they don't support you. You still question why certain people watch but never clap. You take it personal. You think you're not doing enough. No, you're doing too much. Too much truth. Too much growth. Too much power. And that's exactly why they're silent. Your presence exposes their stagnation. Your consistency reminds them of their excuses. Every step you take forward is a slap in the face to the version of themselves they never had the courage to become. So instead of cheering, they spectate. Instead of celebrating, they dissect. Because to admit you're winning would be to admit they were wrong about you, and their pride can't take that hit. But let's go deeper. Some of them wanted to be you. They copied your style, stole your words, borrowed your aesthetic, posted your ideas with a new filter, and claimed it as their own. But guess what? You can't clone substance. You can't fake frequency. You can steal the look, but not the soul. And now that they realize the energy behind it didn't come from appearance, but alignment, they're stuck, watching you do it better, do it louder, do it authentically. That's what haunts them. The fact that no matter how much they mimic, they'll never match. Because while they were curating their image, you were crafting your legacy. While they were watching you in secret, you were becoming undeniable in public. So let them lurk, let them mute you, let them pretend they don't see. Because the truth, they see it all, and it burns. Every silent view is a confession. Every scroll past is a crack in the mask. Every fake smile is proof that your presence is pressure. And if you ever feel tempted to shrink because they don't engage, if you ever feel like you need their support to validate your progress, snap out of it. You don't need claps from the crowd that never had the courage to stand next to you when you were still building. You don't need likes from people who'd rather steal from you than sit down and learn. You weren't built for applause. You were built for impact, and impact doesn't always come with recognition, at least not from the ones who can't stand to admit you're winning. So what do? You keep showing up, loud, unapologetic, clear. You keep moving like you don't notice, even though you do. You let their silence be your soundtrack. Let their lurking be your motivation. Because every time they refresh your page, they're being reminded of what they tried to stop and what they could never become. They're addicted to watching what they pretend not to see. And deep down, they know it. You've already won. Number 5. The universe doesn't play when you're protected. They thought they were just messing with you, but they were stepping into a system of correction that doesn't miss, doesn't rush, and doesn't forget. There's a difference between getting away with something and getting away for now. That's what they never understood. They assumed silence meant safety. They thought your stillness meant surrender. They believed the lack of immediate fallout was a green light to keep pushing boundaries, spreading lies, twisting narratives, and trying to sabotage your progress. But what they failed to calculate was this. You weren't standing alone. You were aligned. And when you're aligned, everything around you responds, not emotionally, not impulsively, but strategically. The universe doesn't play when you're protected. See, they thought they were fighting you. Your name, your status, your platform, your ideas. What they didn't know or refused to believe was that when someone is in alignment, there's a whole ecosystem working behind the scenes to balance out energy, restore order, and return consequences with perfect precision. No yelling, no threats, no countdown, just correction. You don't have to believe in karma to feel it. Some of them are already feeling it. Behind their curated posts, their fake wins, their loud laughs, there's chaos. Things aren't clicking like they used to. Relationships are falling apart. Opportunities are drying up. Their mind constantly racing. The same games they played with your name, your peace, your time, now being mirrored in their own life, only with 10 times the confusion. You didn't have to clap back. You didn't have to expose them. The energy flipped itself, because energy never disappears. It circulates. And when they sent that hate your way, when they poured their bitterness into those rumors, those fake smiles, those backhanded compliments, that wasn't free. It went somewhere. It landed. And now it's being returned with interest. And let's be honest, they thought they were invincible. That's why they kept pushing. They thought you were weak because you didn't fight dirty. But you weren't being passive. You were being precise. You trusted the process. You trusted yourself. You knew that jumping into their chaos would have only slowed you down. And now that you've risen, now that your name is clearing itself without your mouth even opening, they're panicking. Some of them are trying to reverse the damage quietly, reaching out subtly, mentioning your name in a different tone, hoping you forgot, hoping they can clean it up before the full truth surfaces. But that's not how alignment works. You don't get to spit venom, then pray for peace. You don't get to manipulate, then manifest joy. You don't get to drag someone who's protected by the system of energetic order and think you'll escape the return. Because here's what they missed. You weren't saved because you begged for protection. You were protected because you moved in truth. You weren't perfect, but you were real. You didn't fake love to manipulate. You didn't pretend to support people you secretly envied. You weren't smiling in someone's face while plotting against their growth. You moved with intention, and that matters. The universe doesn't reward fake peace or curated light. It rewards consistency, accountability, integrity, even when nobody's watching. And that's what burned them the most. They couldn't figure out why nothing they did stopped you, why their traps didn't stick, why their plans kept glitching. Because while they were moving off ego, you were moving in flow. And the universe doesn't swing for clout. It swings for balance. Let's be real. You've had moments where you wondered why you didn't speak up, why you didn't expose them, why you stayed silent while they painted you as the villain. But now, you're starting to see it. You were never losing. You were being repositioned. Every closed door, realignment, every loss, a reset, every betrayal, a brutal but necessary purge. And the people who played in your face, who mistook your grace for naivety, they're getting acquainted with consequences they thought they were too clever to face. Because the universe doesn't swing emotionally. It doesn't seek revenge. It returns what was sent, multiplied, measured, and right on time. So if you're still wondering if they got what they deserved, stop. You'll see it. If you haven't already, you will. Not because you need it, but because balance demands it. Let this be your reminder. You were never fragile. You were focused. You didn't lose. You leveled. And they didn't just pick a fight with you. They picked a fight with balance itself. And when the universe swings back, it doesn't miss. Number 6. They didn't respect the power of being chosen. Now they fear it. They laughed at what they didn't understand. Now they tremble at what they can't control. They didn't respect it. They didn't take it seriously. Your power, your presence, your potential. They wrote it off. They thought it was ego, thought it was cute, thought it was just a phase or something you were trying. But it wasn't a phase. It was alignment. And now that alignment is shaking everything they built on pretense. They didn't respect the power of being chosen. And now they fear it. Your light haunted their insecurities long before your success ever did. Just showing up as yourself made them feel small. You didn't have to say a word. Your energy said it all. And instead of leveling up, instead of doing their own work, they tried to tear you down. They mocked you, imitated you, dismissed you. But what they really feared was what you might become if you ever stopped doubting yourself. See, the threat wasn't just who you were. It was who you were becoming. Your presence put pressure on everything they pretended to be. While they were performing for applause, you were quietly growing. While they were curating, you were creating. And that kind of difference, it's uncomfortable. Because real doesn't just expose fake, it shatters it. They saw the spark, they saw the depth. And instead of honoring it, they treated you like a threat. Why? Because they knew they could never manufacture what comes to you naturally. So they mocked it, laughed at it, tried to turn others against it. And now, that fear is fully activated. Because now you're not just rising, you're visible. Now your voice carries weight. Now your vision is catching fire. And the very people who said, "You'll never make it," are the ones hiding in the shadows, hoping you don't shine any brighter. Too late. They didn't respect it, but now they feel it. In every room your name enters. In every conversation they can't stop from circling back to you. They feel it in their chest when your face shows up in places they tried to block you from. They used to laugh. Now they flinch, because what they tried to destroy is rising, And this time, it's undeniable. Number 7. They played with your name. Now they're praying it stays out of conversations. They built a stage to shame you, and now they're center scene in their own collapse. They really thought there wouldn't be consequences. They spoke on your name like it was free, tossed around lies like confetti, thinking the mess wouldn't come back to land on them. Gossipers, exes, co-workers, fake friends. They all took turns playing with your name like it was a joke. Now, they're hoping no one repeats theirs in the same rooms they once poisoned against you. They dragged you through every dirty conversation they could find, spun stories to make themselves look innocent and you look unstable. He's bitter. She's crazy. They're not even that talented. All while smiling in your face, acting unbothered, playing it cool, but moving like snakes behind closed doors. And the craziest part, they needed people to believe the lies. Because if the truth ever got out about your growth, your power, your consistency, they knew they'd be exposed for what they really are: jealous, insecure, and intimidated. Now, the same circles they used to tear you down, those circles are talking about them. The rumors have flipped. The whispers are louder, but not about you. Their tactics, their lies, their manipulation, it's all unraveling. The energy they use to twist perception is unraveling around them. And suddenly, their biggest fear has come true. They're the conversation now. You didn't need to say a word. You didn't post a call out. You didn't show the receipts. You just kept building, kept rising, kept showing up. And that truth, it spoke louder than their drama ever could. Now they're praying people forget, praying no one connects the dots, praying that what they did to you doesn't become common knowledge. But guess what? It's already happening. The same stage they built for your downfall, it's now their spotlight. And every lie they told, now part of the script they can't rewrite. They played with your name like it was a toy, but now they're the ones being played by consequences. Let them sweat, let them spin, let them watch your rise from the crowd they tried to turn against you. Because this time, you're not clapping back, you're just clapping louder. Number 8. Your isolation wasn't rejection, it was precision. Diamonds aren't made on display, they're formed in silence under pressure. Stop calling it abandonment. Stop crying over seasons where nobody called, nobody checked in, nobody clapped for you. That wasn't rejection, that was precision. That was life removing the noise so you could finally hear yourself. The silence wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And the people who left, the ones who ghosted you, the ones who suddenly didn't have time for you, good. They weren't meant to come with you. Chosen one, it's time to stop romanticizing the crowd. You begged for inclusion, when the truth is, you were being protected from contamination. You weren't excluded, you were extracted. And let's keep it real, you thought you were being punished. You mistook solitude for failure. You saw the empty calls, the unfollowers, the unreturned support, and you asked yourself, what's wrong with me? You told yourself the story they hoped you'd believe, that you weren't enough, weren't loved, weren't valued. But that was never the truth. You were hidden, sheltered from distraction, pulled away from the noise. You had to be, because what you were becoming, it couldn't survive under the weight of fake friends, trauma bonds, surface-level supporters, and passive-aggressive envy. It had to happen in isolation, because that's where the pressure is pure. That's where growth can't be faked. You think anyone becomes unshakable in comfort? You think clarity shows up when everyone's cheering? No. It shows up when you're left with nothing but your thoughts and your will to keep going. And that's what you did. You kept going. Even when no one noticed, even when it felt like the whole world forgot you, even when you were building with your bare hands and a breaking heart. And now you're coming out of it, sharper, wiser, unrecognizable to people who knew the older, more insecure version of you. And some of them, they're going to try to come back, pretend they didn't flinch when you were struggling, pretend they always believed in you. But you'll know better now, because now you've seen what isolation creates, and you know what fake support looks like in contrast to your real growth. You weren't alone. You were being refined. You weren't abandoned. You were being aligned. So stop mourning what left. It had to. And start realizing what was really happening behind that silence. You were becoming a diamond. Number 9. They thought you'd come back begging, but you came back glowing. They left you for dead. Now your resurrection is their insomnia. Let's call it what it is. They thought you'd break, thought you'd crawl back, thought you'd fold under the weight they dumped on you. Exes who mistook your love for weakness. Fake friends who dipped the second things got uncomfortable. Bosses who looked you in the eye, lied to your face, and thought they'd buried you with their power plays. They were all counting on your collapse. But guess what? You didn't come back crawling, you came back glowing. No announcement, no drama, just quiet evolution. And now they can't sleep. Because while they're still trying to make sense of their choices, you've become someone they can't even approach without choking on their own guilt. You were supposed to stay stuck. That was the plan, right? Lose yourself. Doubt yourself. Depend on them. But instead, you did the one thing they feared most. You moved on, and you leveled up. Now your peace is loud, your success is unsettling, you're glowing, and they don't know how to handle it. See, they didn't just hurt you, they bet on that pain. They thought the betrayal would paralyze you. They thought the silence would destroy your spirit. But what they forgot is this: you don't stay broken, you build. You transform. You flip the pain into power and the setback into strategy. And now that you're thriving, they're haunted by the possibility that they'll never have access to you again, not even a glimpse. You ever wonder why they suddenly try to check in? Why they like an old photo out of nowhere? Why mutuals tell you, yeah, they were asking about you? That's not nostalgia. That's panic. Because now you look better. Now you sound clearer. Now you walk different. And they know, deep down, they don't belong in the world you're building. So they're hoping, just hoping, that there's still a back door into your life they can sneak through. But there's not. That door is closed, locked, sealed with every lie, every fake smile, every time they underestimated your comeback. You were never the problem. You were the power they couldn't handle. And now they lie awake at night, wondering how the person they counted out became the one thing they can't stop thinking about. That glow up, it's not just revenge, it's reality, and it's the one thing they'll never outrun. Number 10. They lost the war. They started, and you never lifted a finger. They brought matches to burn you, but the flame baptized you, and now they're choking on smoke. Let's bring this all the way home. They started a war. They picked a fight they couldn't finish. They came at you from every angle, through rumors, backstabbing, manipulation, fake smiles, silent envy, and public disrespect. And the entire time, you never swung back. You never stooped. You never played their game. And still, they lost. Because here's the truth they never saw coming. You didn't need to defend yourself. You didn't need to explain, retaliate, or put on a show. You didn't need to perform your strength. You are the strength. Your power was never about noise. It was in your stillness, your discipline, your refusal to break character while they showed theirs. They tried to ruin your name. Now they're scrambling to protect their own. They tried to dim your light. Now they're blinded by your glow. They wanted to watch you fall. Now they're choking on the smoke of the fire they lit. Every single person who tried to ruin you ruined themselves. Not because you got back at them, but because that's how life works when you build your power from within and stay out of the mess. They collapsed under the weight of their own lies. Their bitterness was their blueprint for destruction. You didn't destroy them. They self-destructed, trying to stop someone they never had the range to touch. And some of them, still trying to figure out how it happened, still stunned, still talking like they were the victim in a war they started. But deep down, they know you won without saying a word. And that silence, that outcome, that growth, that's what's killing them. You walked through every trap they set, untouched. You survived the sabotage, elevated. You didn't lift a finger, and they still lost, because you were never built to play small. You were never designed to go back and forth with people whose only mission was to dim what they couldn't copy. You didn't meet fire with fire. You became the storm. And now they're sitting in ashes, watching the one they tried to bury become everything they couldn't be. You didn't just survive the war. You became the proof that their tactics never stood a chance. And just like that, the truth stands tall. You never had to fight dirty to win. They started the war, but you walked away glowing while they collapsed under the weight of their own intentions. Your power wasn't loud, it was lasting. Let that silence echo forever. If this message hit your spirit, like the video, subscribe for more raw truth, and drop the number 77 in the comments to claim your rise. Share this with another chosen one who needs the reminder. You never needed revenge, just alignment. And now that you're aligned, nothing can stop you.